Are we on? Let's see what's going on. Oh yeah, I think we are. Oh, I think we are. Yes, we certainly are. Welcome, welcome. Back to one. All will be one. I'm finishing off the last part of the review. I'm sure we'll finish it tonight. I do have a bit of a headache. I announced I was going to do it. I decided I was going to do this a couple of hours ago, and I announced to everyone I was going to do it, and then immediately got a blinding headache. So that's good, isn't it? Well, I've popped a couple of pills, and hopefully it won't be too bad, and we can crack on to the end. Look, I've set us up in the right place, and Facebook hasn't even forgotten my place either. That's nice, isn't it? So we did Slaughter Singer yesterday, did we not? And it was one for the pile, I'm sure, as an 8-mana Toxic 2. Let's just get right down to business, shall we? Or I'll just put the chat up on the screen just in case, so I can see if people are talking to me. There we go. And I'm just going to head off, really, you know. If you miss any cards, you can always catch up. I don't know why I'm telling you people now who aren't listening to me that you can catch up in the future, because anyone who is catching up in the future already know about catching up in the future, and everybody who isn't catching up. I've wasted enough time now just talking to myself, probably. Let's have a look at Slowbad Iron Golem. He's a face from the past, isn't he? Slowbad. When you match an artifact supports gem, bad start, the first artifact card in your hand that can gain mana gains X mana. X is the total shield of artifact supports you control. I mean, that seems really bad to me. All you Karn 3 players excited about this with your Power Stones? I've only got one thing to say to you people, really, is why are you playing Karn 3? He's awful. Don't like him. Oh, hello, Sneeze coming up. Don't talk. Bugger, shouldn't have said that. Come on, Sneeze, I know you're in there. Damn it, never mind. Solfin Mayhem Dull. Blow my nose, that's what I'm going to do. Has somebody else joined us yet? Oh, I see 2 people in the chat now. Maybe somebody's joined us. It's Goz! Hey, Goz! Oh, I've got a sneeze just tickling behind my nose and I can't make it go. Give me like a fright or something. Say something really frightful and scary that will make it jump out of the skin and will force this sneeze. Like I've just got a job of Octagon or something. Hey, Main Luke's in as well. Hi, hi. Solfim Mayhem Dominus. When a spell you control deals damage... Sounds like I'm snorting coke. No, I'm just... Yeah, just got a sneeze. Just waiting. When a spell you control deals damage to an opposing target, deal that much damage to that target. Okay, so we're just doubling up on damage here. This is probably going to be the theme for the rest of this card. When another creature or support you control deals non-combat damage to an opposing target, for the first time deal that much damage to that target. Right, not particularly interesting. We'd like it to deal to double combat damage as well. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Any 2 times any finite amount of damage is still a finite amount of damage, which is not good. Activate 5 red, nice high number. If this creature doesn't have prevent damage, can gain prevent damage. Yeah, don't really care. You know, random prevent damage on a thing, not interesting. And yeah, why isn't it doubling up creature attacks? You'd play with it then, wouldn't you? But no, just doubling up. Yeah, don't like. Soulless Jailer. This is a 4 mana. It's probably not a low enough cost for Opera SM to get excited with his combo decks, is it? When this creature enters the battlefield, cards with buried in all graveyard lose buried, right? really interesting. When a card with buried enters the graveyard, it loses buried. When a card enters play from a graveyard, destroy that card. Yeah, I mean, this is a full-on sideboard card. And there's almost no place for sideboard cards in this game. You know, you'd think you could play sideboard cards against PvE decks, but in practice you just play really powerful decks, don't you? So pants, oh god, wow, that is small text, isn't it? They've made it extra small by separating the lines out with loads of blank space. Why have they done that? God, mana field. No, it's going to have to be the glasses. I've got my magnifying glass out there. It's going to have to be the glasses. Now remind me to leave them out on the table after I've read this card. Mana field. Increase this card's level by 1. Pay X life. X is equal to this card's level. I'm skimming ahead too, right? Okay. Then perform each of the following actions numbered equal or less than this card's level. 2. You may destroy target creature you own. Well, that's pants, isn't it? And it's 2 as well. Oh, I suppose, okay, right. I suppose it comes into play at level 1, does it? So you play it and it's level 1. So you only need to do 1 set of mana field for it to immediately leap into action and destroy a creature that I own, which is not a good start. Convert 2 gems to your Planeswalker's colours. See, that really should be the start of it, I think. Considering you have to mana field it anyway, I feel like that should be the start of it. Proliferate, escalate. Okay. Draw a card, it gains X mana, 6 gain an extra swap. How do we think? How do we think about this? Do we like this? I don't. We can only trigger mana field like once a turn, regardless of how much mana conversion you're setting off. You can only trigger it once a turn. So it is going to take 4 turns to be doing the proliferate escalate thing like the Decimator Web does, and 6 turns to be getting extra swaps. I mean, when it gets all the way to the end, you know, getting a swap and a card and some mana and some gem conversion and some proliferation, I mean, it might be okay if you're getting all of that, but it just it's taken a while to get there, I think. And considering you can just go bam, Mox Sapphire, there you go, I'll feed 24 mana into this Jin-Gitaxias and not have to wait 6 turns to do that. I'm unimpressed. Some people might like it. I am unimpressed. Oh, hello, it's one of those rubbish skull bombs. Return target creature to its own. When you match 4 or more blue gems, right, that's bad. Support loses a reinforcement. If it can't destroy it, then return target creature to its owner's hand. It gains half its mana. No, no. I mean, it is more powerful than some of the other wanky skull bombs we've seen. You know, if you wanted to, you could call that 2 removal spells, but it's not really, is it? No, it's not good. What have we got? Is that it? Is that all you get? I mean, I do keep saying to Octagon, if you're going to make shit cards that nobody plays, don't make them complicated. So I guess, hooray! I guess maybe that's a win for me. Well, I'm so pleased with myself for having achieved swooping lookout. Sword of Forge and Frontier. Oh, I've never heard of this before. Of course, the swords of this and that traditionally have been absolutely amazing. Do you know what? I've been mastering Sword of Dungeons and Dragons recently, and it's kind of not bad. You know, +4/+0 and hexproof and making a lifelink dragon. It's kind of not bad as equipment goes. Let's see what this one does. While the support is on the board, your first creature gets +8/+8 for 17 with 2 shields. Right. +8/+8 good. 17 bad, 2 shields bad. When your first creature attacks, pick one of the first 2 cards from your library. Fetch that card. If the last card in your hand is a land card, it gains full mana. Otherwise, it gains 5 mana. So let's say that you're gaining about 5 mana, aren't you, from that? Yeah, it's too expensive and doesn't have enough shields. The problems with this card are very obvious, you know. But definitely high shit tier. This is very high shit tier card. Still shit tier. Silvok Battle Chair for Mirrodin. 17 mana. Oh my god. It's not going to be as good as Sword of Forge and Frontier, is it? Uncommon. At the beginning of combat on your turn, your first creature gets +4/+4 and gains trample. So you're getting 6 powers worth of creature for 17 mana. Anyone think that's good? Anyone? Anyone? No. Mana field, the support gains oil counter 1. All of the oil counter cards have just been absolute piss, haven't they? So far. It's not to say that we won't get an oil, because they're all their own thing usually. Not to say we won't get an oil counter card that's worth playing with, but I doubt it. If their support has oil counter 2 or greater, gain 5 mana. So when you mana field, pretty quickly you gain, but not really quickly enough, you gain 5 mana. I mean, it's not a land, lands just do the thing every turn. You know, even Plaza of Heroes just gives you 3 mana every turn. You need to actually mana field to get this 5 mana out of this. When you match the support's gem, if the support has oil counter 5, draw a card, gains X mana. X is this support's oil counter value. Yeah, I don't like that. Don't I rather have a plain old Eye of Vecna than one of those? When another creature enters the battlefield under your control... Oh, here we go. It's a toxic one. It's a more expensive toxic one than some of the other toxic ones we've had. Another creature enters the battlefield under your control. If you matched blue gems, proliferate, escalate. Oh, so, So you could, you know, in effect, you could be doing 3 poison tokens every turn with this, if you happen to be popping creatures into play, extra creatures into play every turn. I wonder what does that? What kind of blue mythic support from Origins might put creatures into play every turn? I don't know. Maybe, you know, there are other ways of putting creatures into play every turn. You know, again, throw it on the pile. What a great review this has been, isn't it? Yeah, every single toxic card just comes up. I just go, I don't know, somebody else test it. That's my review. That's Steve's reaction to all of the cards in this set is somebody else test it and tell me what to think. Tamiyo's Immobilizer. Damn, I said the quiet part out loud then, didn't I? Nobody's going to be watching my reviews in future. Support enters the board, you get oil counter 4. Mana field, if support has oil counter 1, support loses oil counter 1, disable. Target creature until the beginning of your next turn. Yeah, you can't rely on that, can you? It's not a reliable way to stop a creature killing you, so I don't care. Tamiyo's Logbook. I guess perhaps a reference to Tamiyo's Journal. I bet this isn't as good as Tamiyo's Journal. Mana field. Drain X mana from your hand, then draw a card, it gains 3 mana. X equal to 5 minus the number of artifact cards you control. You know, just piddling for this piddling amounts of mana. Oh, and it's draining as well. Jesus Christ. I mean, Tamiyo's Journal is a million times better than this, isn't it? Definitely a million times better than this. Takutal, Incree Dominus. Lots of tentacles going on there. I can't quite tell what's going on. There appears to be like an armoured rat there, though. That's quite cool. When you proliferate, proliferate, escalate. Now, it's possible that it will trigger itself. No, it won't, because it can only trigger once per turn. Okay. Oh, hello. What the hell happened there? I did not do that. Damn, it's going to be a lot of scrolling now. Right, look away from your screen now if you suffer from bad effects to strobe lighting, because I'm going to be scrolling up the screen to try and get back to where I was. I swear to God I did not do that. It's just Facebook kicking me out because it doesn't like me. Is Steve doing something on Facebook that doesn't involve giving Facebook money? Kick him out. We're close. I feel we're close. Surgical spell bomb. Here we go. Yes, when you proliferate, escalate once per turn. That's not very exciting, is it? Activate 5 blue, high number, if this creature doesn't have prevent damage. Oh, is this going to be another one of these? There's been quite a lot of these in this set, haven't there? You know, we've got a legit prevent damage creature with vigilance somewhere, but I've seen about 3 or 4 in this set. Cards that go, jump through a bunch of hoops. That should be on the bingo card, shouldn't it? Jump through hoops. Jump through a bunch of hoops, and then this creature that you don't really care about and isn't really doing anything and isn't a threat gains prevent damage. A card you control with oil counter 3 or greater at random loses oil counter 3. But this doesn't have oil counter. If this creature doesn't have prevent damage, a card you control with oil counter 3 or greater at random loses oil counter 3. I mean, that's quite a lot of oil counter as well. So you've got to be playing with something else with oil counter and even to make this do something. A creature you control with power toughness 3, 4 or greater. This is just the worst thing ever. I'll tell you how to make this a better card. Right, make it a 10 mana 3/5. Boom, there you go. All of a sudden it's a much better card. I mean, technically the power level might be fractionally lower, but not so that anybody cares. At the beginning of your turn, convert 2 gems to red. Oh, we haven't seen any of these. Presumably they're all called the. Yeah, they're going to all be called the, and that's why we haven't seen this lands before. For a common, this is all right, isn't it? For an actual land that we give a shit about and actually might want to play, it's not really. Convert 2 gems to red. When the support is destroyed, draw a card. I mean, this is better version. We've seen this before, converting 1 gem to one colour and 1 gem to another colour. And converting 2 gems to the same colour is, of course, better. But I'm afraid still not really good enough. Yeah. Still not really good enough. Yeah, and there was going to be one of these for each colour. Damn. So that was the lands then. We've had the 2 cycles of lands for this set. I mean, maybe there'll be a one-off mythic one at the end we haven't got to yet, but 2 cycles of lands we've had. Oh, shit! Balls! Mana field, this support gains oil counter 1. I think these lands are decent, but again, cut your losses. It depends what you mean by decent. If you mean bad, then yes, they're decent. They're much more powerful than a lot of other worthless lands you wouldn't play with. Out of all the worthless lands you wouldn't play with, these are certainly near the top of some of the worthless lands you wouldn't play with, but, you know, still not going to play with them. This support gains 1 oil counter. When you match this support's gem, this support has oil counter 5 or greater. That's going to take a while. You may deal X damage to any opposing target. If you do, the support... Jesus Christ, what a heap of shit. X is 2 times this support's oil. Yeah, don't try and be... Oh, Steve, you didn't read that bit, did you? No. That doesn't make it any better. Doesn't make it 2 times this support's oil counter. Doesn't make it any better at all. When this support is destroyed or loses a reinforcement during your turn, destroy each creature and each non-land support with base cost Y or less. Yeah, that's shit. Sorry, but it's shit. You know, you need to... No. This is not how I'm destroying creatures and non-land supports. No. No, 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 no. No, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. What's that? Sexy beast, isn't it? When the support enters the board game... Oh, that's the other half of the review. The one half of the review, right, for the too long don't read people, is anything with toxic, somebody else test it and tell me if it's good. The other half of the review, I'm prepared to go out on a limb and say for myself, definitely, that oil counter cards just all suck ass. When this support enters the board, it gains oil counter 2. At the beginning of your turn, convert 2 gems to your Planeswalker's colours. Okay. I mean, this is rare. We've just had, look, that's a better effect. 2 gems to green. Is there a better effect than 2 gems to your Planeswalker's colours? When you match this support's gem, if this support has oil counter 1 or greater, which it does, probably, loses oil counter 1, then your creatures gain oil counter 1. Your artifact supports gain oil counter 1. Oh, God. Oh, God! The words do mean things. You know that, Octagon. You can't just write words onto a card and assume that you've done your job. You do know that, don't you? I don't think they do. Don't think I'll ever teach them. At the beginning of your turn, convert 2 gems to your Planeswalker's colours again. I mean, is this what we're reduced to? Are we reduced to playing with this? I mean, I suppose they're better than the fucking dual lands in Origins, aren't they? Nobody likes playing with the dual lands in Origins. That's what we get now, is it? 2 gems conversion. When you match this support's gem, if you control another non-token artifact card, if this support is reinforced, if a pig cycles past playing a banjo on a Tuesday, this support loses a reinforcement. Then what? Well, it uses a reinforcement when you match it anyway. So you're saying when you match it, it dies. That's a great thing for a support to have. Then reinforce a non-token artifact card you control at random. Otherwise, convert 2 gems to your Planeswalker's colours. I mean, okay, if you like, go nuts. Put a Hangerback Walker into play and reinforce it, and maybe it'll actually reinforce the Hangerback Walker and not the Thopters. You know, insert the name of good artifact. Are there any good artifact creatures? I'm playing Break the Power Stone at the moment, and Break the Power Stone has a bunch of fucking lines of text on its node support saying artifact creatures this, artifact creatures that. I never see anyone actually playing with artifact creatures. Nobody cares. People are playing with good creatures. People are playing with fucking Blade Coil Serpent. That's what people are playing with. Nobody cares about your fucking artifact creature nobbings. Somebody's going to tell me that Blade Coil Serpent is an artifact creature now, aren't they? I mean, it's... whatever. At the beginning of your turn, convert 2 gems to your Planeswalker's colours. Okay. Are we going to get a whole cycle of these now? I mean, maybe one of them will do some stuff. When you match this support's gem, the first Phyrexian creature card in your hand that can gain mana gains 6 mana. So are we talking about, when you say Phyrexians, is that a creature type? Yeah, presumably it's a creature type. And presumably things like these toxic creatures will have, yes, will be Phyrexian types. Does that mean we care? I don't think it means we care. I mean, matching a supports gem, not the easiest thing to do in the world. First Phyrexian creature card in your hand that can gain mana, gains 6 mana. If your opponent controls blah, your first creature with base power and toughness 1/1 gets +3/+1 until end of turn. Yeah, I don't care. Don't care. Low. It's low power. More low power. Thrumming Bird. Is this really in this set? Isn't Thrumming Bird in... Am I thinking of something else? I thought Thrumming Bird was in the last Mirrodin Phyrexia, new Phyrexia. I thought Thrumming Bird was in that set. When a creature you control deals combat damage to your opponent's planeswalker, proliferate, escalate. Well, you know, once again, throw it on the pile. I very much doubt this is going to make it into the toxic deck. You know, only generating 1 token a turn if your opponent already has the Phyrexian, Toxian. So, you know, technically it can proliferate 3 times in a turn, I suppose. Do we care about that? No, I very much doubt it. Seems bad. Seems bad to me. Don't think it's going to make it. Thrun, Breaker of Silence, can't have its mana drained or raised. Yeah, like most cards, most of the time. The beginning of your opponent's turn, if your opponent doesn't control a green card, this creature gains hexproof. Okay, so I mean it's quite unkillable, isn't it? At the beginning of combat on your turn, this creature gains prevent damage. So I mean this is a seriously unkillable creature. You know, there's a good chance that it's got hexproof. And, you know, unless your opponent has the Kami War out, and everyone can play with that, and it's really good. And that will kill this as well. And there's the fair, you know, a good chance it'll have prevent damage. Obviously, you can't do blocking shenanigans. So then you're left asking the question, why would I want so much protection on a 13 mana 5/5? And the answer to that is for no reason. That is the answer to that. They forgot to actually make the creature good. Transplant Theorist. When this creature or an artifact card enters play, you may discard the last card in your hand. If you do, draw a card. I mean, that's an expensive effect for a 9 mana 2/4. Activate 3 blue, move the first card from your graveyard to the top of your library. Yeah, we've got no... We needed some kind of filtering. It needed to be much better, but some kind of filtering effect that was good. You know, just simply dumping cards into your graveyard and then always putting the top one back on your library. It's no good. You've got no control over that octagon. Pay attention. When this creature, when you cast a spell or artifact card, this creature gains oil counter 1. Creature gains oil counter 1 for each of its reinforcements, which as usual it doesn't get from anything. What, I'm just expected to pay my mana? Just expected to make matches and put mana into 11 mana 0/1s, am I? I see. At the beginning of your turn, this creature gets +X until the beginning of your next turn. X is this creature's oil counter value. Okay. So it's 1, 2. And every single spell or artifact that you play, increase that. I mean, the looping deck players have got better. Haven't the looping deck players got better? They've got Thermo, what's his name? The looping deck players have got better than this. I mean, the tokens stay on this creature. Yeah? As it builds up oil counter, and the oil counter stays on it, but it builds up oil counter a bit too slowly to be relevant, I think. So, nobody cares. 18 mana, toxic 3 with haste. Now, The thing we were looking at the other day, how expensive was that? I forget how expensive that was. That had like Toxic 6. God, did that cost like 24 mana or something? Maybe it cost 24 mana or something. I mean, we like Toxic 3. We don't like 18 mana. That's really all that needs to be said about this card, isn't it? Clearly, we don't give two shits about it being a 4/4. And haste is very marginally improvement over not having haste with the Toxic. So, yeah, that's all we need to say there. What have we got here? Toxic 4 on this one. 22 mana. Can't have its mana drained or raised. I mean, you can still be discarded though, can't it? Mind you, I suppose nothing really does discards that's any good. Liliana 1, anyone? Can't have its mana drained or raised. Ward, drain 12 mana from your hand. Oh, is that it? Is that all you get? It's just a fat body, and as such, it's too expensive, isn't it? Isn't it too expensive? Yeah, I think it's too expensive. I mean, we could be deploying this and the thing with Toxic 6 and something else and killing somebody in 2 swings. Do we care about that? I'm not sure that we... Maybe that's good enough. You know? I'd still rather be deploying Emrakuls, to be perfectly honest, to keep my opponent off things. Or, you know, just huff deploying and killing somebody in a single turn. So, whatevs. Expensive. Tyvar's Stand. When you match 3 or more green gems, if this card is in your hand, increases this card's level by 1. Okay, green gems are a little more easy to match than other colours of gems. But this is still going to be piss, isn't it? You can tell. Target creature you control gets +X/+X and prevents damage. Prevent damage. X's this card's level. Yeah, absolute piss. Unctus, Grand Metatect. This guy looks a lot like, what's the guy's name? Is it Dr. Satan? The guy in Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. That's who I'm reminded of. I feel like this is Dr. Satan. At the beginning of your turn, artifact creatures you control get +X/+X. He is an artifact creature. 9 mana 2/4 underwhelming. 9 mana 3/5 still underwhelming. Artifact creatures. X is the number of artifact creatures you control. Not include nothing to do with reinforcements. So, you know, kind of small. Activate 5 blue. Target creature you control gains the artifact subtype. That's really not enough to excite me, you know. When you think about it, that is worse than if it said activate 5 blue, target creature you control gets +1/+1. Considerably worse, in fact. At the end of your turn, you may discard up to Y cards. If you do draw that many cards, Y is the number of enabled blue creatures you control. And you get the choice to do it. I mean, this seems very, very comparable to the old Jessian Thief, doesn't it? You know? And that's kind of low power level, to be perfectly honest. It draws that, that was a 9 mana 3/5. It pumps itself up a bit. It draws a card and doesn't even have to discard cards. And I suppose Sigilled Starfish is roughly the same as the Jessian Thief. And you know what? I do actually play Sigilled Starfish in Seize the Day, but only because I have to play a certain number of creatures with a certain power and toughness, a certain power. Otherwise, I wouldn't be playing it, because it is low power level. And this is also low power level. Unctus's Retrofitter. More of a kind of Star Wars droid aesthetic to this. There's a Dr. Satan going on here, but more of a 2/1B kind of aesthetic going on here. Trample Toxic, this is a chase card. Were you saying that this is a chase card? Is it? I don't think this is a chase card. That's all I have to say about that. I don't think that's a chase card. This is 13 mana Toxic 1. You know, we've got better stats than that on things. When this creature enters the battlefield, it gets +4/+4. Well, again, we don't really give a shit how big it is. We only care how much Toxic it can give us, really. So that one's not going to make the cut. Unnatural Restoration. You see, I do a job. I'm not just saying other people can look at things, and I'm going to go out on a limb. Does that go on the bingo card? No, not really. It's just something I happen to have said twice today, that's all. But I'm definitely going to say that that one's not going to make the cut. Mayluke says, I wouldn't chase after it that hard. Yeah, I'd agree with that, Mayluke, but I wouldn't chase after the Tyrannax that hard. Pick one of the first 4 creature or support cards in your graveyard, return it to your hand, then proliferate, escalate. Low power. What this card needed to do would be create the token, wouldn't it? This needed to be the green version of that black card or that blue card that actually created the token itself. But instead, all of it's doing is proliferating and escalating, so we don't care. Urabras, 7/4 haste for 10 mana. We can talk. We can talk. Those stats are not bad, are they? They're not, not amazing, but certainly not bad. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gains haste. Okay. Oh, right, yeah, okay. When an opposing creature enters the battlefield or is reinforced, it gains can't attack and can't... I wonder if there's some kind of symbol you could put onto a card to indicate that it can't attack and can't block. Nah, probably not. Madness. When opposing enter creature, it gains can't attack and can't block till the beginning of your opponent's next turn. I mean, that is just summoning sickness, though, isn't it? Like most creatures. This is probably what Urabras does in paper, isn't it? Urabras probably in paper gives all your creatures haste and stops your opponent's creatures having haste. Maybe that's all it does. But, like, when my opponent plays a creature, it's not going to attack me on that turn anyway. Yeah? So a creature with summoning sickness, that second paragraph isn't going to have any effect on. Urabrask's Chase. I mean, I can see why it might be. It's a legend, and people like legends for, like, Rocco-y loops and things, I can see why it might be changed. Me as a Spike, I'm not particularly interested in just playing this card and having a 7/4 haste. But I can definitely see that it does fit into loopy decks that just go la 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 la, put 12 of them into play and then kill your opponent. So yeah, I guess I can see why guys would call it Chase. I don't know if I'd go that far even. I mean, haven't we already got... Isn't this just a slightly bigger version of some of the other haste creatures we can already do that with? I don't know. I'm not an expert at that kind of thing. Urabrask's Anointer. Anointy. When this creature enters the battlefield, an opposing vanguard loses X shield. If it can't deal X damage... This is the total oil counter value. Urabrask Forge. At the beginning of the combat on your turn, if you control 2 or less creatures, create a red Phyrexian horror token. Now, as usual, we don't know what that does. It sounds to me like a Phyrexian horror doesn't have... Toxic, and the reason for that is because I think there is a paper magic card called Phyrexian Horror. I think there is. I can't quite remember. Should we go over to the computer and type in the words Phyrexian Horror. Images. No, maybe there isn't an actual card called Phyrexian Horror. Oh, I can see. I can. Well, the Phyrexian Horror token in Paper Magic, I can see here, is a star and does not have toxic. So you've got to assume that however big it is in Puzzle Quest, it's not going to have toxic. I can see the Phyrexian Might token here over on my PC screen that you can't see, that the Phyrexian Might has toxic, but it looks like the Phyrexian Horror doesn't. If you control 2 or less creatures, create a red Phyrexian Horror token. This support gains oil counter 2. Your last creature gains +X/+0 and gains haste and trample until end of turn. I mean, it all depends on how big that Phyrexian Horror token is, doesn't it? Like, if that's a 4/4 token, then isn't this just a straight upgrade to Thopter Spy Network, isn't it? Beginning of so you play it, the beginning of combat on your turn, it immediately spits out a red Phyrexian Horror token, yeah? And it's going to do that every single turn, as long as you don't play another creature. Oh, I mean, yeah, if you control 2 or less creatures, as long as you don't have 3 creatures in play, it's just going to spit out another red Phyrexian Horror token every single turn. It's going to gain oil counter 2, your last creature, which is good. You want have they thought about how haste works? They have, haven't they? Normally they don't really think about how haste works, but yes, it's your last creature you want to have haste. That's the one any creature you put into play after that is going to have haste. And trample. I mean, this seems okay, doesn't it? Obviously it'll live and die on how big the Phyrexian Horror token is. But I mean, this just seems like a cheap token generator, you know. Cost 8, 3 shields. Yeah, I'm going to be looking out to see how big that Phyrexian Horror is. Because I like token generators. This doesn't fall into the trap of being a creature that generates creatures. It's a support that generates creatures. I'm going to be watching out for that one. Certainly, keeping my eye open. Exile an opposing card with the greatest mana value. Now, honestly, I'm not even sure whether this affects Vanguards or not. Recently, it has come to my attention after somebody disabled one of my Vanguards that Spell Queller, even though it doesn't specifically say that it affects Vanguards, and there was a debate on the forum where people said, well, it's not supposed to affect Vanguards, so it doesn't affect Vanguards. And now, all of a sudden, it does affect Vanguards. They made some kind of change. So maybe this will affect Vanguards. But even if it doesn't, creatures, supports, land supports, jolly good. 12 mana is a little expensive. Yes, you're not wrong there, main loop. 12 mana is a bit expensive. But for an all-purpose spell, if the last card in your opponent's exile is a support card, you gain 9 mana. And there's a fair chance that might happen. I mean, you're most likely to find that the creature that's in your the card that's in your opponent's exile is the creature that you've just exiled, aren't you? At the start of the game, you're going to want to use this on the first creature they play. They're much more likely to play a creature than a support. You might get lucky and they'll play a support first, and you'll have virtually all your mana back. Probably have to burn this on a creature. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not broken removal, but there might be a place for it in things. I can well imagine Pajami players being perfectly happy throwing this into their deck, especially when Void Ren goes. And, you know, who knows, maybe the fact that it blows up lands is good. Or maybe lands are just so fucking bad now that nobody gives a flying toss about blowing up lands. Yeah, like it. Like it, not broken. I like it. Vat Emergence. Return the first creature from target graveyard to the battlefield under your control. Proliferate, escalate. I think there are cheaper effects than this, aren't there? Cheaper spells than this that just use your graveyard. And frankly, since you don't really have any control over, you know, which creature comes out, and because the creatures that you've put into your deck are more likely to work with your deck and be better than Greg's creatures, it seems like you're more likely to want to get your own creature out into play. I mean, you might get lucky. You might be able to make Greg throw away his Jingataxius and then put it into play, but you don't really plan your whole strategy around getting lucky, do you? Well, I don't. So, yeah, it's not an awful card, but it doesn't seem like a particularly good one. It seems like there are better. Maybe there aren't. Maybe this is a very good way of reanimating things as compared to other ways of reanimating things. Still seems a tad expensive to me. Vat of Rebirth. When a creature or artifact card you control is destroyed, support gains oil counter 1, right? Rubbish. It's mana, if it has oil counter 3, it loses oil counter 3. Yeah, you know how I was saying that, you know, I didn't think this was a whole lot better than other reanimation cards. You know what it is better than? It's better than fucking Vat of Rebirth. That's what it's better than. Oh, dear me, no. No. Veil of Assimilation. When this support enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains vigilance until the beginning of your next turn. Arse! Venerated Rot Priest. Oh, that is a nice cheap creature with Toxic 1, isn't it? When your opponent plays a spell that targets a creature you control, create a Phyrexian Toxin token under your opponent's control. I think they've banned this in paper in some. I think I remember my friend Mills, who jumped into the stream the other day, telling me they've actually banned this in some maybe Legacy. It's some formats. I don't know. Maybe even Standard. I don't know, some formats in paper. From what he was saying, though, it did sound like you could target this creature with effects in order to generate poison tokens. And obviously on this card here, the way that Octagon have done it, it has to be your opponent playing spells that target creatures. So you are unlikely to get a lot of poison tokens out of his ability. But he is, you know, a nice cheap creature, certainly one for the pile, certainly near the top of the pile to test for the Toxic deck. What have we got here? Toxic 3. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may drain 5 mana from your hand. If you do, proliferate, escalate. I mean, it seems too expensive to me. It does have Toxic 3, which is quite a lot of Toxic. But that seems too expensive to me at 15 mana. We'll move along. Venser. Oh, did Venser get completed? Poor old Venser. Corpse Puppet. Oh, dear me. Yeah, no, he's not done well for himself, has he? We've got Lifelink here. We've got Toxic 1 on a nice cheap creature. We've got Lifelink on a 1/3 creature. So cheap Toxic, fairly rubbish Lifelink. When you proliferate, if you control 2 or less creatures, if you don't control a Phyrexian Golem, create a Phyrexian Golem. Otherwise, target artifact creature you control, like a Phyrexian Golem, gains flying and lifelink. Now the golems, we decided the golems had, I'm going to, while I've got this up on my PC over here, Phyrexian Golem, we decided this had toxic, didn't it? Oh no, Phyrexian Golem does, apparently, in paper anyway, does not have toxic. So that's not good. So we're basically pulling in the wrong direction here with that one. If this was a toxic creature that created a second toxic creature, we could talk. But yeah, I'm pretty sure if you're playing the toxic beatdown deck, you don't want to be playing a creature that fills up one of your creature slots with a non-toxic Phyrexian Golem, regardless of how much you might want a small amount of lifelink. So that's going to count against this guy. Vindictive Flamestroker, 3 mana. That's the sweet spot for doing mad combo things, I understand, is 3 mana. Well, it looks terrible though. It's just, I can tell because it says oil counter on it. When you cast a spell or support, it gains oil counter 1. When you match 4 red gems, you may have this creature. It's just full of, chock full of words that I hate, this card. If you do discard your hand, draw 4 cards. Those cards gain X mo. Well, at least there you go. There's a sentence I don't mind. Amongst all these sentences that I absolutely hate, oil counter and imminent death. Is that going to work in loopy decks? I mean, maybe, I suppose. When you cast a spell or a support card, it keeps gaining oil counter. It never loses oil counter. So that's just building up. Are there conversions? I don't think there are really conversion spells that convert gems to red mana, though, are there? How do you really loop with this? Because you have to match 4 red gems in order to make it do the thing where it triggers, draws a bunch of cards. And yeah, well, that is the thing, I think, isn't it? Is, you know, it's nice. Gaining a lot of mana is nice. Doing the actual matching of the 4 red gems is going to be the hard part. And we don't really have anything. If we had a cut your losses in red, I can well imagine people trying to build a whole deck around this. But we don't. So yeah, put it on the back burner. You might want to remember it exists, but I feel like there's not going to be a good way of really going crazy with this card. Viral Spawning. Create a Phyrexian Beast token this time, is it? That's definitely not going to have toxic, is it? Phyrexian Beast sounds like it's going to be quite low. Well, I suppose beasts are 3/3s, aren't they? But are Phyrexian Beasts really going to be exactly the same as Phyrexian Golems? Oh, Phyrexian Beast in paper does have toxic 1. It's a 3/3 with toxic 1. Right, so we are in fact just paying 8 mana for a toxic 1 creature here, which is worth thinking about. When you match 3 or more green gems, if this card is in your graveyard, if your opponent controls a card with Phyrexian Toxin with 3 or more reinforcers, this card gains 5 mana. So you need to do that twice, and you need to have already hit him with some toxic. If you cast this card from your graveyard, exile this card. Okay, so he only ever comes back once. Well, it's basically just, you know, another creature with toxic 1. Onto the pile it goes. Vivisection Evangelist. It's a 4/4 vigilance. If your opponent has 3 tokens already, destroy an opposing vanguard support if you can't destroy target opposing creature. Or Or you could play a 6 mana spell in black, which just does those things without your opponent having to have 3 toxic creatures play. No, no one's going to play this. Awful removal. Very, very bad, awful removal. Draw 3 cards, proliferate or escalate. I mean, that looks too expensive to me. Yeah, are we all agreed on that? Yeah, too expensive. Voidwing Hybrid, okay. We're back with the 7 mana toxic 1 creatures. When you proliferate, if this card is in your graveyard, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. This card gains 3 mana. I mean, I'm not sure that's going to be relevant. That doesn't really sound like it's relevant. It's just yet another toxic 1 for the pile that might, you know, I can see this being nearer the top of the pile than the bottom. It's going to have pushed some other things down. Well, no, I don't think that the sprogging back into play is especially relevant. Opposing Vanguard support loses 3 shield if it can't deal 3 damage to any target. Obviously, absolute pants. Vorinclex. Hey, Vorinclex. At the beginning of your turn, increase your mana bonuses by 3 until the beginning of your next turn. That's pretty good, isn't it? Just pretty good. Not, you know, not broken or anything, but pretty good. When your opponent matches 3 or more gems, your opponent's mana bonus of the matched colour becomes 0 until the end of their next turn. Now, I know what Vorinclex does in paper. Yeah? He makes your opponent's lands come into play tapped in paper. So this really beggars the question, how does this work? If your opponent matches some green gems, does that mana bonus immediately become 0? And therefore he's only getting 3 mana out of that match, in which case this would be good. Or, when he matches 3 green gems, does he get the 8 mana out of that match that he normally would? And then the match is reduced to 0, which 99% of the time doesn't mean anything, because he's only making 1 match in a turn anyway. Yeah, so depending on how this works, as is so often the way with Octagon, depending on how this works, it's either pretty good or pretty pants. Everyone's calling it a chase card. It might well be, yeah. If you, if this card means that every time your opponent makes a swap on their turn, that mana bonus immediately drops to 0 before they get the mana from that match, that's going to be quite a good way of holding your opponent down. It's not, you know, I wouldn't go even as far as to call it a soft lock. It's not any kind of lock. It's just kind of generally good value. Now, the thing I really like about Jingataxius, which is a surprise to me actually, is this was mentioned to me in the forums, on Discord, sorry, the other day, is that it has flash. You know, I said to my mate Matt, I said, it's got flash. He said, it's got to remember, it's got to stay in play, Steve. And I'm like, it's got flash. And he's like, oh, I've never heard you be excited about something having flash before. And flash is actually kind of relevant on Jingataxius, isn't it? Because it stops your opponent killing it. And it means it does going to be in play. It does going to be in play. Definitely does. Thanks to the flash ability. This does not have the flash ability. So, of course, you might end up paying 20 mana. And then your opponent will shoot it with one of the removal spells that he may already have charged up in his hand, even before the mana effect on this kicks in. I don't know. I think this card is okay. I think I'm definitely not going to be playing with it. I think some people might like to play with it. We'll see. Vran, Executioner Thane is a 4 mana. 2/2s, nice and cheap. But it's probably going to be an irrelevant thing. When a creature you control dies or loses a reinforcement, your opponent loses 3 life, you gain X life. Activate 5 back, target creature you control, lose a reinforcement. Yeah, that's just piss, isn't it? Actually, you can cripple yourself. Well, okay, not cripple yourself. He won't actually kill any of your own creatures. They'll only lose reinforcements. But, I mean, who really cares? It's bollocks, that thing. Vraska's Fall. If your opponent controls a Vanguard support... Blimey! Wow, this is good, isn't it? If your opponent... I was not expecting to see this spell. I mean, it's... One might have, you know, hazarded a guess that this type of spell existed in this game. I was not expecting to see it. So it destroys a Vanguard. If not, it destroys a creature. And it creates the Toxin token. And that's a great way of creating a Toxin token, isn't it? That's going to see play. That's unquestionably going to see play. That. I mean, you know, there are going to be decks that just don't give a flying toss about the Toxin token, and they're going to play the cheaper version of this at 6 mana, or Void Rend, etc., etc., etc. But if your deck's going to have anything to do with Toxin whatsoever, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't play this card. Solid card, like it. Volshock Splitter for Mirrodin, and it sucks, obviously, as all Mirrodin cards do. I love the way they've just forgotten to put the equipment, the little equipment symbol that usually goes there. They've just forgotten about it on a bunch of these equipment, haven't they? They just don't really care. Not really very good at doing their jobs. Non-targeted removal indeed. Yes, it was. Yeah, this is just a solid card, isn't it? Watchful Blisterzoa. Oil counter 1. When it dies, if it's got oil counter, it has. It's got oil counter 1. Draw X cards. So it's a 16 mana 4/4. When it dies, you draw a card and it draws 3 mana. Nope. Another one of these rubbish Twilight cards. What does this one say on it? If this card's level is 5 or more, destroy all creatures. You gain X life, create X Phyrexian Might tokens. X is equal to this card's level. I mean, so there's basically no life, isn't it? Destroy all creatures is obviously a solid, powerful effect. Creating X Might tokens. I don't mind creating X Might tokens. I don't really like gaining X life. It's a very small amount of life, but having some Might tokens. The problem is just level 5, isn't it? It takes so long to get level 5, and then of course it's got all the rubbish stuff about if you didn't make white match white gems this turn, convert 1 gem to white. Bad. They needed to push the power level of those cards a bit, and they did not. Zantia. Now I'm going to try it. I won't fall into the trap with Zantia, because there's going to be something written on Zantia that says you give it to your opponent, isn't it? It's got Bravery. This creature can't attack. When this creature enters the battlefield, if your opponent controls 3 or more creatures not named Zantia, destroy the first opposing creature. Your opponent gains control of this card. So wait. You only give this card to your opponent if they have 3 creatures in. But I don't know about you, but if Greg ever has 3 creatures in play, I'm doing really badly. really, really, do you all find that Greg routinely has 3 creatures in play and that you're carrying on playing the game for an amount of time? I mean, maybe you're ignoring the creatures he has in play because you're going to kill him with a combo deck, but if you're going to do that, you're not playing a Zancha, are you? Let's see what it does. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you lose X life. X is equal to this creature's power. Okay, so you've given it to your opponent. They're losing, currently, 5 life a turn. Who knows if it'll stay like that. When a player activates a loyalty ability, you lose 10 life. Your opponent draws a card. It gains half its mana. Yeah, I mean, your basic problem with this card is it just, you can't give it away unless your opponent has 3 or more creatures. Not named Zancha. Oh, okay, so you can't even play a second one to reinforce this one on his side. Because as soon as he's got one, and you play one, you're going to keep it. It's going to fuck you up, and you don't want to do that. You're only ever going to play one of these. It's bad, isn't it? It's bad. Like, however much life Greg is losing, but he's probably making up for with the fact that he's attacking you with 3 creatures. Do you choose which? No, you don't even choose which creature to replace. You just replace the first creature. I cannot imagine that being good. I think it sucks. Zenith Chronicler. When your opponent casts a multicoloured card, where you really can't depend on that happening, can you? Draw a card, it gains 5 mana. When you cast a multicoloured card, your opponent draws a card, it gains 5 mana. Waste of everybody's time, really. You never know when Greg's going to be playing with multicoloured cards. You know, nobody cares about this type of thing for PvE. Terrible, terrible, terrible card. Zoppadrel, Hunger Dominus. Well, there's going to have to be some really good text on this 22 mana 4/6 reach creature, isn't there? Let's see what it does. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. Okay, so that's something. So we're actually dealing with an 8/12 creature, an 8/12 reach creature, which I have to tell you is still way overcosted for 22 mana. It is, of course, doubling the power and toughness of all your other creatures as well. But you're probably a little behind Greg at this point. Yeah? It's all very well saying, well, I put this into play and it doubles the power and toughness of all my other creatures that I've got in play. But I think you're going to be behind Greg at this point. Do you know why I think that? Because you've just spent fucking 22 mana on this bastard. That's why. Activate 5 green. If this creature doesn't have prevent damage, another target reinforced creature you control loses 2 reinforcements. If it can't destroy that creature instead, this creature gains prevent damage permanently. Knock yourself out, Johnny combo players out there, if you like this. This is going to be, you know, a reasonably large defensive creature with prevent damage, maybe, eventually. I mean, you don't need to do a lot to give this prevent damage. You just need to have something else in play, no matter what it is. Activate 5 green, that's really easy. And then the other thing dies, and this gains prevent damage permanently. So you don't need to do a lot to have a fairly massive prevent damage creature. But why not play with that other prevent damage creature, you know, with the vigilance and the prevent damage? Yeah, that was only 18 mana. I suppose 18, 22 are both as bad as each other, really. 1 for the Johnnies. It's not particularly good. It's better than high shit tier, I'll give it that much. Is there any more? No, that's the lot. Well, we're in trouble, aren't we? We're in trouble next year. That's definitely 3 ass sets in a row, isn't it? Is it going to be all Blade Core Serpents and Jingataxius in standard when it rotates? We're losing an awful lot of stuff. There's been some, you know, a couple of nice removal spells in this set that we'll be having to play with, probably, because there isn't any alternative. In fact, the removal's probably been the best thing we've seen in this set, isn't it? Apart from the one single chase card. I'm not having all this about Vorinclex being a chase card. Chase it if you like. It is not a chase card. But, yeah. It feels like we're in trouble. And then, of course, you know, there's just the question, isn't there? The toxic deck. Whether the toxic deck is going to be good. Like I say, I feel like, having seen all the cards now, that maybe the toxic beatdown deck isn't going to be good. And maybe the toxic inexorable tide deck is going to be good. That's how I feel about toxic. I mean, I guess maybe they're the same deck. Maybe you put inexorable tide in with some toxic creatures. No harm doing that. But I feel like the real power is going to be coming from cards like the toxic, the inexorable tide, and the decimator web. It doesn't really look like you can just slap down 3 toxic creatures and attack somebody to death with them. I think you'll be needing some backup. Some proper finishing power from the supports. I don't know, my instinct says that it's not going to completely dominate standard and be the best deck in the entire world. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how genuinely good it is. But, I mean, apart from that, you know, I'm prepared to say that there's a question mark over the toxic. I mean, oil counter, what a fucking waste of everybody's time that was. I mean, we really just need cards that do things now. You know, they've got to stop with this business of when you match 3 gems, if this card is level 5, then this card loses oil counter. You know, we just got to have some more fucking Harbinger of the Tides in. If your opponent has a toxic token with 3 reinforcements on it. We just need a bunch more creatures. I mean, I suppose we had Glitter in this that was just attacking and just blowing up artifacts and enchantments. I quite liked her. I can imagine myself playing with her. She might be okay, even if she is very small. But yeah, the curse of Octagon is making cards complicated for no reason is really impacting the playability of 90% of the fucking cards at this point. You know, they've really got to just flip the switch and make some simpler cards that just do a thing. And if you do that and you do that, then you get that. No, not good enough, Octagon. Thanks for coming with me on this odyssey, increasingly depressing odyssey of going through set reviews of Octagon cards. We do have 2 more sets before standard really rotates. You know, it's like we get another one, don't we, in this rotation of standard, and then standard rotates and we get the next one. So there are 2 more sets to come. So it is quite possible we get another good set before next year. But it seems depressing. Where we are now, it seems depressing at the moment, doesn't it? All right, night peeps. Thanks for being with me. It's only been an hour tonight, but we ran out of cards, didn't we? So y'all take care. And I'll see you all in, 3 months for the next one, yeah? Nighty night.